Okay guys, so I want to show you some design work I've just done, inspired by a LinkedIn post. And I'm not going to expose who the author of the LinkedIn post is, but the questions they were asking, the statements they were making, and the design that they provided inspired me to do some design of my own based on what they had done. So on LinkedIn, the post says, "When I started designing, I thought good design meant making things look beautiful. But then I realized a design that looks beautiful but confuses the user is a failure. Design isn't art, it's communication." Okay? Now, every time I design, I ask, will this guide the user or confuse them? Will this reduce friction or create frustration? Because in the end, great UI UX, I would say that should be great UX UI, isn't what looks best, it's what works best. What do you think? Should a designer focus more on beauty or usability? Now, that is the question there. That's the baiting question. Beauty or usability? The answer to that is both. Great products are usable and beautiful. Great products are beautiful and usable. Their beauty makes them usable. Their usability makes them beautiful. They are not mutually exclusive. Okay? That's the issue here with this post. Because if we have a look at what the designer did who created this post, I don't think beauty... Well, let me just show you. So this is what I've done. This is what I've done in Figma, okay? So I've taken beauty and usability, and I believe I've achieved that with my solution to their design, or at least my opinion and my version of what they were trying to provide as a solution, okay? So before we look into what I've done here, let's just go back and have a look at what they did here. So before and after. Now, the first thing I get from this is that, the stumpiness and the shape and the dimensions of the frames make this look like an iPhone 3 for a start, okay? So as you can see from before is supposed to be the beautiful example, but it's failing completely on its color contrast, right? All this white text and these muted input fields with too much pass-through, it's not working, okay? You can barely see sign up or forget password at the bottom. So what they're saying is the beautiful design is confusing and it's not usable. Then they've come up with the solution, which is after. Now, this is just, it's usable. They've created black text and navy text, so now all of the text is readable, so it is more usable. But they never had to sacrifice any sort of beauty. Not that there is much beauty here, if I'm being honest. So 1/3 of that screen for after is taken up by a big gradient, which isn't really doing anything, unless it is alluding to some sort of branding like the swirl is on the before example. Forget password as the link at the bottom. Very big and very odd. Why isn't that, if you consider just all principles, why isn't that linked with the password field? What's happening with the type scale? Where is it? And why is all the spacing off? For both examples, basically. Now, I think this designer has probably just got ChatGPT to do this. I think the post itself, if we go back and look at the post, you can see the double hyphens, and you can see the little emojis. It does look like ChatGPT has sort of written this whole thing for them, even the hashtags. And this definitely looks like something an LLM designs, right? This does look like it came straight out of ChatGPT. And I think the biggest giveaway is things like the forget password link and the dimensions of the phone. But either way, whether the designer spent lots of time on this or whether ChatGPT did it, this isn't working. Yes, you can say that after is usable, but you've completely lost beauty and it looks really dated, okay? So let's go back to my design here. So, considering the fact that we have a trend and we're just basing my solution on UI, let's bring Glassmorphism in. In that before example, they are trying to do something like that with the sort of frosted input fields, but let's see this in action. Let's take this into the zeitgeist and the latest trends from Apple's liquid glass, okay? So we start with the phone itself, which is now an iPhone 16 dimensions, so modern and up-to-date-ish. So that's there. Now, it's using Glassmorphism, so what are we working with on Glassmorphism? We're looking at the stroke in the background, yeah? So we have a linear fill coming through top left, bottom right, 0 at 90, 100% at 1. Then we have our stroke. So our stroke going around is playing off the lighting source and reflection. So it's not a solid stroke all the way around. It's going to actually be using the color underneath, like the background of the phone screen will be, to give the illusion that there's a layer of glass here. And obviously the stroke itself is edged and thicker so that you can see it, right? compared to the background blur, which brings me on to then the background of the phone itself, which is an inner shadow, a drop shadow, and the background blur at 90. Now everything underneath all of this big frame in the background here with the color blobs on it and, the lighting stuff and things like that, that's what's coming up through the phone to let you know that the phone has a glass effect. But less is more with that. So when we come down to our elements then, we're actually passing color contrast at AAA. So for everything, we're getting AAA. Sorry, let me just do that. Big red one there made me look really stupid. So green, green, green. Even the muted is green, right? Button label, green. Create an account, green. It's all just AAA, okay? We can go for AA. AA is fine. We could probably bring some more visual hierarchy in if we push things towards AA. But just to show you that Glassmorphism doesn't have to be a nightmare and liquid glass doesn't have to be an accessibility nightmare, which is what they're trying to get away from here. They're saying, well, this is too beautiful, which I don't agree with. We have to change all of this text to make it black and dark so that it's usable. No. Do both. Do a lovely, beautiful glass morphic or liquid glass effect and design, but make it as accessible and as readable as you possibly can. Now, one thing I've decided to do as well is obviously we have a type scale here. We have the different size and different weight fonts working, whether it's a title or a placeholder, or whether it's the button label or the create an account text link, right? Or the forgotten password link, which is muted. So we have hierarchy there in regards to the type, but then obviously the color hierarchy is also there. So we have our muted icon colors, we have a forgotten password, which is slightly muted as a secondary utility action, email, password, the visibility, login, create account, all matching white with the login text there. So your eyes are drawn to the right place. You can see that the button itself is like the most pixel density on the screen. So that's your call to action, and then email and password pretty much universally recognizable. And if we prefix with our icons, then we really know what we're getting down to. We don't need, like, cognitive load, we don't even have to think. Okay? So there's a lot missing there from both of those designs, I think. And again, SSO login, social login, we could be adding all of those, but I think they're more of a UX thing rather than just improving UI, right? So when it comes to Glassmorphism, I think the big thing that people want to do is they want to put everything underneath it to make it pop. But that's where the accessibility starts failing. So what I've done is I've said, well, less is more. If you look at the button, this graphic now that we're pulling through from the beautiful example, the before example from the design, I've put that at the bottom of the screen. It's actually sort of like from 50% down or about 40% down, because that's most of our empty space. Let's not have it competing with our input fields and too much with our text links and things like that. Now, it goes through the login button at the very last sort of 15%. And that's the subtlety. Just that little bit of less is more lets you know you're dealing with glass, with the subtleties of the stroke and some of those color sources coming, those light sources coming in from the background underneath. You don't have to put that everywhere. You don't have to have every single glass layer having something under it so you can see that it's glass. Less is more. And the user knows. The user knows that if I was to move this under those inputs, look at that, there's your frost. But we don't need it. We just don't need it. Less is more. So let's play it cool, Trig. Let's play it cool. Now, the final piece of this, I would say as well, is just our spacing and our sort of like positioning. So forgotten password is now with the password input field. So simple gestalt principle of grouping, logical grouping, right? But if we look at our spacing, we're using our trusty 4 or 8-point grid. So everything in our form elements here is separated by 48 pixels. This form element is 40 from the top of the status bar. So again, everything just divisible by 4. If I click into the form area, that 48 becomes 24, so we halve it. So the input fields and the forgotten password link are 24 from each other. Now you could argue that the forgotten password should be tighter. It should be tighter to the password field. I think on web, I would probably shave that down to 12 or 8. But for fat thumbs like mine, especially on touch devices, I'm just letting it breathe. Just giving it the space. It's close enough to it, you can see it's there. And then obviously the 48 comes back into play then when you come back up out of that layer to the login button and create an account. So there it is. That's my solution there. Beauty and usability. Both of those things should be designed for. They can be achieved. Thank you.